We are now going to go through the notes on how to use trig to find the missing side of a triangle. All right, so here you see we have this 64-degree angle. This is the angle I'm talking about when it says circle the angle you are using. We are never going to start from the 90-degree angle. We'll never start from the right angle. Always one of the acute ones. So here I start from the 64. Okay. It says then label the sides of the triangle adjacent, opposite, and hypotenuse. So I always start with the hypotenuse. That one is across from the 90-degree angle. Okay. Then opposite the angle is the leg that it's not touching. So that one would be this one up here. And then adjacent to my 64 degrees is this one on the left, the vertical line, because it is touching the 64 degrees, but it is not the hypotenuse. Okay, so I marked adjacent, opposite, and hypotenuse. Step 2 says decide if you need to use sine, cosine, or tangent. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to notice, okay, so I have my hypotenuse marked, right? I have a value. My hypotenuse is 20. My adjacent side is x. Those are the two numbers I need, hypotenuse and adjacent. So I'm going to look at my ratios and I notice cosine is, right, the cosine of theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse. So that is why I'm going to pick cosine, because I have the adjacent is my x and the hypotenuse is my 20. Okay, so now I'm going to set up my equation. So I'm going to fill in what I know. So I have cosine, and then remember theta represents my angle. What is my angle measure? 64 degrees. So this angle here, that replaces your theta, right? 64 is my angle. So 64 equals my adjacent side, which is x, over my hypotenuse, which is 20. And then we go ahead and solve, right? So I have 20 in the denominator. I'm going to multiply both sides by the number 20. So these cancel. And I get x equals 20, and this is what you can place in your calculator, 20 times the cosine of 64. So you put that in your calculator, and you should get 8. If you round to the nearest 10, you should get 8.8. Now, if you put this in the exact same way and you get a different number, that means your calculator is in radian mode instead of degree mode. So watch the tutorial on how to turn Desmos into degree mode. Okay, so let's do a little practice. So step 1, we circle my angle. Step 2, I label my side. This is my hypotenuse. Opposite from my angle is x, and my neighbor here is adjacent. So I check, okay, I have a number for adjacent and something for opposite. I don't need my hypotenuse. So I look at my ratios. The tangent of theta equals opposite over adjacent. That's what I have written in my notes. So now we go ahead and we plug in what we know. So I know that theta is 54 degrees, right? Theta is my angle. Opposite is x. Adjacent is 14. That is how my triangle is labeled. So then let's go ahead and solve. Multiply both sides by 14 so that the denominator cancels. So x equals 14 times the tangent of 54. You plug that into your calculator and you should get 19.3. For all of these, go ahead and round to the nearest tenth. Next, circle your angle. Label, across from the 90 is a hypotenuse. Across from my given angle is opposite. And adjacent, that's not the hypotenuse, is here. Okay, so here I have an adjacent mark and I have a hypotenuse. I don't know anything about my opposite. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to check, and I notice cosine of theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse. So I plug in what I know. Cosine of my angle, theta is 44. Adjacent is x. Hypotenuse is 14. Again, multiply both sides by 14. You type in your calculator, 14 times the cosine of 44, and you should get 10.4. Number 3, circle your angle. Mark, opposite of my angle is 17. Opposite of my 90 is my hypotenuse. And then here my neighbor is the adjacent. So this time I have a value for opposite. I have a value for hypotenuse. I don't know anything about adjacent. So I check my notes. Sine of theta equals opposite over hypotenuse. So sine, and then I fill in the blanks. Sine of 40 equals 17 over x. And here is where things change a little. You'll notice in the first 3 examples we did, the denominator was your integer and the numerator was your variable, right? We had x on top and we multiplied both sides by the 14 and we got x. Well, here my x is on the bottom. So if I multiply both sides by x, these cancel and I get x times the sine of 40 equals 17. And we remember that the sine of 40 is just a number, right? Sine of 40 is a long decimal. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to divide both sides by the sine of 40. So these are going to cancel. So x equals, and what I want you to put in your calculator is 17 divided by the sine of 40. And 17 divided by the sine of 40, and you should get 26.4. So I would pause the video, try the next one, and check your answers. I will do one more example. So I'm going to circle my angle. And my diagonal side across from the 90, this is my hypotenuse. I don't have anything here on my adjacent one, that's empty. This is opposite. Opposite my 71. So opposite and hypotenuse is again sine. So I have the sine of my angle, the sine of 71 equals opposite 19 over hypotenuse x. So sine of 71 equals 19 over x. So you'll notice again, here we have an x on the bottom. So we want to multiply both sides by that x, so they cancel. So x times the sine of 71 equals 19. Well, now I'm going to divide those sides by the sine of 71. So these cancel, and on the left side, I'm left with x equals. And then in my calculator, I'm going to type 19 divided by the sine of 71. And there you should get 20.1. So go ahead and finish this page.